This verse is showing to 12.13.13, and the text on the screen is referring to another verse where it indicates in the same chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam is Puranam Amalam. We discussed this. There's many points this evening that you'll be hearing, you've heard before and you're hearing again. So the 2:13:13, that's our Bhagavad Purnima verse. If on the full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift, he, the giver of the gift, will attain the supreme transcendental destination. Eventually, we had this discussion this afternoon. The journey has begun, is the message this afternoon. And reference here is in later verses, chapter 12, chapter 13 of Canto 12. Srimad Bhagavatam is referred to as Puranam Amaram. And those of you that were with us this afternoon, or midday, there was a young boy that learned the meaning of Purana and Pramana. Remember? Purana means very old. It also means history. Purana has these two meanings. Very old, ancient history, or history. Purana. So there's Puranas, the histories. The histories section of the Vedas give clear explanation of the Shrutis, because the Shrutis are very very highly intellectual and not easily understood. The explanation is found in the Puranas, in the Mahabharata, And then Pramana sounds not like Purana. Pramana means evidence, so we're going to hear a very nice reference here. It's Srimad Bhagavatam Amaram Purana. This is a correction from something that was yesterday evening. Yesterday evening I mentioned incorrectly the author of this commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Srinath Chakravarti. Here's the reference. It starts with celebrated verse. Ramyat Kachit Ipasana Rajavadu Vargina Va Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Amaram Purana. Here's the phrase. Srimad Bhagavatam Amaram Purana. There's the phrase from Acharya commenting on the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. This is his invocation verse. The ways of worship of the son of the king of Vrajadam, Sri Nanda Maharaj, that's Krishna, he's the son of Nanda Maharaj, may be various, but the one which was conceived by the circle of the damsels of Vrajadam, so the first line, Vrajavadu Vargena, the circle of the damsels of Vrajadam, is unsurpassable by any other devotee. Ramya Kachit Upasana Vraja Vardu Vargena Vakalpita. That's the best. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is the unalloyed guidance, Amala Purana, for the purpose of approaching the worshipful Lord. And here's the correct name of the title. It's a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, some of these points I've mentioned have been indicated elsewhere. Here's one reference from Padma Purana that's also mentioned in the same Canto 12, Chapter 13. It's a nice teaching. All other religious scriptures remain respected in an assembly of learned people as long as Srimad Bhagavatam, which is filled with nectar, does not enter their assembly. As soon as Srimad Bhagavatam comes to their hands, all spiritual scriptures become faded. It's like, if you've ever been in a courtroom, there's a law. If you don't obey the law, you can be arrested. When the judge comes in the courtroom, there's a bailiff or a clerk that says, "Everyone rise." And the judge has come, and you stand up, and it's a law. It's culture, but now, in America at least, it's a law. And you don't rise, use the handcuffs and you take you away. That's America. So, in Vedic culture, scriptures are revered. Yet when Srimad Bhagavatam enters into the scene of many, many scriptures, they rise to honor the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the king, Rajate, Rajante. It's the king. And this is a verse that's spoken of in Srimad Bhagavatam as well as Padma Purana. Now we've seen this verse a couple of days ago. Here it is again. This is from the Garuda Purana. I like it. The meaning of Vedanta Sutra is present in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vedanta Sutra. The summary of all the Vedas. Vyasa compiled the Vedas, but then he wrote his personal writing as Vedanta Sutra that summarizes all the Vedas in little codes. And the Srimad Bhagavatam presents the meaning of Vedanta Sutra. The full purport of Mahabharata is also there. Bhagavatam is spelled wrong. Mahabharata similarly, comprehensively presents, there's history. I'm going to quiz you again. You ready? Purana means history and it means old. And Mahabharata, it's history, but it's in a different category. Mahabharata is in the category of itihasa. 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 So, they're both histories, and Mahabharata is a very celebrated history that's very comprehensively presenting and illuminating the truths of the Vedas through history, historical narrations. Here's the difference one of the differences between Puranas and Itihasas. By rule or by design, the Itihasas are chronological, and the Puranas are not necessarily chronological. And there are specific examples in Srimad Bhagavatam itself that's purposefully mainly because of the spontaneous mood of Shukadeva Goswami. He sometimes narrates something not in order of chronology, but in a spontaneous way of speaking, joyfully. I could give examples. That's Garuda Purana, here's Matsya Purana, wherein the supreme Dharma is elaborated upon the foundation of Gayatri. So Gayatri mantra is also explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and where the killing of Vritrasura demon is mentioned, which means in the other Puranas it's not, is known by the name Srimad Bhagavatam, one who, on the full moon day, gives away in charity Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne. Doesn't say which full moon, but it's the month of Bhadra, will attain the highest destination. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of 18,000 verses. That's from Matsya Purana. It says the number of verses, it also says the number of chapters and the number of cantos. So here's some nice words spoken by different acharyas. We'll start with Srila Prabhupada on the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly very dear scripture for all the devotees of the Lord, but it is auspicious even for the non-devotees also, because it explains that even the non-devotees hover under the spell of the material energy, can be delivered from the clutches, from such clutches, if they hear the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. Small qualifier, with devotion and attention from the right source, representing the Lord by disciplic succession. The second canto purport. Prabhupada knew what he was doing because he knew the Srimad Bhagavatam and he knew the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course, there are conditions, as many of you that read Bhagavad Gita know, chapter 16, Krishna says that those who are not austere should not be taught this message, Bhagavad Gita. Right? Anybody know the verse? You agreeing with me, or just... Is it right or not right? It's right. Right after that verse, Krishna says, there's no one more dear to me than he who presents his teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So, persons may not understand it. This sometimes comes up. How are people going to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam? Because it's, besides it's big, it's very elevated. So how are people going to understand it? It's pure. So even if they don't understand it, it's elevating. And there's certainly information to help them understand there's an alternative. There's suffering in this material world, and there's an alternative. So it's beneficial for one and all. And it's particularly effective, or becomes effective, more so by devotion and attention, hearing regularly from the right source. Here's Bhaktisiddhanta. Get ready for Bhaktisiddhanta with his boxing gloves. No other book like the Bhagavat. It's not a lecture, it's a little compilation of some of his writings. Even if all the books of the world were to be burned, there would be no harm, provided one treatise was left, Srimad Bhagavatam. Even if thousands of learning centers were to be abolished, there would be no feeling of inconvenience, provided the reading and teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam is continued. And he goes on, there are no other books in the world like Srimad Bhagavatam. This is not mere tittle-tattle. No, please understand, he's writing in English. This is not Bengali to English translation. This is his language. Or an exaggerated homage, we discussed that's midday. Artavad. Our host here. Do you know the meaning of Artavad? Artavad. You know the meaning of Arta? Dharma, Arta, Kama, Moksha. Arta? Generally we discussed this afternoon. You're getting a review of this afternoon's class. Artha means commonly translated as wealth or material prosperity. But that's because most people want material prosperity. Really, the meaning is something that's wanted. So, Arthavad is a vada or a doctrine that says, oh, these statements in scriptures, they're just exaggeration. A false statement just to pump people up so they'll do something. You do this and this day and the Ekadasi day and you fast this way and you get 5 gold stars on your report card. Or something like that. So, an exaggeration. Eulogy that's not really real. So here he's saying it, Bhaktisiddhanta is saying it. If one reflects on it as a truly impartial judge, one will realize that there has not been, nor will there be, a book like the Bhagavatam. So he's a lover of Srimad Bhagavatam too. And here's Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's a little softer, but right to the point. From Pranava, or Om, came Gayatri. From Gayatri came the Vedas. From the Vedas came the Brahma Sutras. And from Brahma Sutra came Srimad Bhagavatam, which has brightly risen like a Satchit Ananda sun. Very concise. Those who have eyes should see, those who have ears should hear, and those who have minds should meditate on the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's from an introduction to Sri Krishna Samhita. That along the vertical sides, Bhagavatam and Bhakti-Vinod, that's what it says. So here has writings, Krishna Samhita, because it's taken from Srimad Bhagavatam, teachings of Krishna. This is meant to be an illustration of Sanatana Goswami. And here's a nice story about Sanatana Goswami. When he was young, he was born in a Brahmin family, and in his dream, Brahman appeared in his dream and very blissfully gave him Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he woke up from his dream, and he was surprised and a little perturbed, and lo and behold, later that same morning, the same Brahmana that came in his dream came to his home and gave him Srimad Bhagavatam. When he obtained the Bhagavatam, Sanatana became ecstatic and merged into the ocean of prema. After this incident took place, Sanatana began reading Srimad Bhagavatam daily and for the rest of his life. He was a great lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu elaborately discussed the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam. Based on those instructions, Sanatana Goswami wrote a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, Digdarshini Tika, and a commentary on Hari Bhakti Vilas, Vaishnava Toshini, which is another commentary just on the 10th canto Bhagavatam, and Brihat Bhagavatamrita was a commentary on the Bhagavatam. He liked the Bhagavatam very much. Some of you in the room probably know, some of you may not know, what is Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Brihat Bhagavatamrita, the storyline is, after Shukadeva Goswami completed narrating Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, got up and left. And when he got up and left, there was still some time before the came to. And so the mother of Maharaj Parikshit approached him and said, "My dear son, I couldn't understand all of what he said, but I think you did. Could you summarize what he said?" And she said, "My dear mother, this isn't the right time to ask such a question. But because you're my mother, I'll give you a summary." And that's what Brihad Bhagavatamrita is. The summary of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But it's narrated in a very different way, a very interesting way. It's in two parts. Part one is focused on Narada is sent by a number of other sages to identify and report back to them who is the greatest recipient of the mercy of the Lord. So he goes to this one, that one, that one, this one, that one, that one, and comes back and informs them the greatest recipients of the mercy of the Lord are the residents of Vrindavan, who have such love for Krishna. There's no greater recipient of the mercy of the Lord. And that ends part one. There's a lot in between. And then the second is a scene in Vrindavan where there's a cowherd boy, not during Krishna's time, just a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. And his name is Gopa Kumar. Gopa means a cowherd boy, and Kumar means he's young. So Gopa Kumar is doing what cowherd boys do. They was taking care of cows. And in the course of his doing that service, he noticed one ecstatic-looking Brahmana. He didn't know his name, but he just became very attracted to him. And series of events, he requested the Brahmana if he could give him mantra diksha. Little boy. And the Brahmana leaned over and whispered Madan Gopal mantra. He initiated him in the Madan Gopal mantra. So then he chants this mantra and he gets experiences and goes to this place, that place, and that place, and that place. And he eventually goes to Vrindavan, to Goloka Vrindavan. It's a very, very far out description, passing through the coverings of the universe and what that was like and what's on the other side, and meeting Lord Shiva and meeting the Vaikuntavasis as they're coming into the material world to deliver the people in the material world. Very interesting book. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam in his own style. And after writing Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he wrote a commentary on Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So he liked the Bhagavatam. There's another nice example. I don't know if I discussed this here, but the Queens of Dwarka hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Did I discuss that here? Yes? No? No. No. Yes. Last year. Last week, but not here. No, that was St. Louis. Here? Here. Okay. Okay. We'll hear it again. Krishna's departure. Krishna Janmashtami, we celebrate. We don't have the same festival for Krishna's departure. It's very sad. And when it was time for Krishna's departure, here's a little background. Krishna's in Dwarka. Krishna's in Dwarka. It doesn't describe this in the Bhagavatam, but elsewhere it describes after he killed all the demons, the last one being Dantavakra, the big demons to be killed. He spent 2 months in Vrindavan. And after spending 2 months in Vrindavan, he returned to Dwarka. when he returned to Dwarka, Krishna's father, Vasudeva, was arranged for a big festival, a yajna, where the devas came to receive the offerings that the brahmanas were offering to the devas. They came in person to receive their offerings. And it was the standard ritual where devas are receiving things. He wanted to give benefit to all the citizens. It wasn't for himself, it was the benefit goes to the citizens. So when he was performing that yajna, Lord Brahma came amongst the various demigods. This is right in the Bhagavatam. And when Brahma came, he requested a private conversation with Krishna. In that private conversation with Krishna, he said, mission accomplished. I requested, on behalf of the demigods who are also here at this festival, this sacrifice, I requested you to appear and deal with the demons who are overburdening the earth. So, thank you very much, mission accomplished. Now, if you so desire, you can return to your own abode. I mean, Krishna doesn't need his permission, he was just doing the socially nice thing. Thank you for fulfilling your promise, and if you wish, you can now depart. Those of you that may have listened to Hari Parshad Prabhu's first class on Sri Shikshastakam, the note that came from Advaitacharya sent a message, a cryptic message, like an enigmatic, puzzling message to Lord Chaitanya, essentially in code saying, your purpose in coming, the external purpose in coming is fulfilled. Love of God is abundantly distributed here in Navadvip, and if you so desire, you can now enter into your personal ecstasy, the internal reason for which you came. It doesn't say that in the message, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood. So similarly, and then he relished Shikshastakam for the final 12 years of his life. And that's what's in Antya Lila. Krishna was informed by Brahma, you can depart if you so desire. So Brahma departs, Krishna is contemplating, my business is finished, but it's not finished because after I depart, Kali Yuga will begin. And when Kali Yuga begins, everything becomes deteriorated and degraded. And the Yadu dynasty members are invincible. No one can defeat them. And if they become degraded, no one will be able to defeat them. So they also should be relieved of the burden of the earth for what may happen in Kali Yuga. So he made a plan to remove them. And the plan was fulfilled. The fratricidal war and Pravas and all of that. We'll have the details. So Krishna's about to depart, and his chariot driver Daruka knows that Krishna's about to depart. And he starts crying, saying, please don't leave me alone, take me with you. And Krishna says, I have some service for you. And so I'm not going to take you with me. I want you to immediately get on your chariot, go back to Dwarka, inform all the residents of Dwarka that the entire city of Dwarka is going to be submerged in water, because it was an island in the sea, and it's going to be submerged in water. So all of their paraphernalia and all of the queens and everyone should vacate pronto, because very quickly it's going to happen. And Arjuna should be instructed to escort the queens, this is what's being shown in the painting here, the queens should be taken to the care of my grandson, Vajranabha. Vrajranava. Vrajranava was living in Vrindavan. Here we go. After Krishna's disappearance from this world, his queens came to Vraja, where Vrajranava, Krishna's grandson, was protecting them. One day, one day, while being tormented by the pain of separation from Krishna, they noticed that their co-wife, Kalindi, alone was happy. They asked her to explain the reason. So Kalindi is another name of the river Jamuna. Kalindi is another name of the river Jamuna. Kalindi explained that Uddhava had given this indication that he wanted to become, when he visited, Uddhava came to Vrindavan as a messenger of Krishna, right? You with me? Yes, no, maybe? Yes. Krishna is in Mathura. He went to Mathura to kill Kamsa and to liberate his mother and father. And Krishna is in Mathura, feeling separation from the gopis and knowing the gopis are feeling separation from him. So he sent his very confidential friend and messenger, Uddhava, to take a message to the gopis. So Uddhava came. And when Uddhava saw the intensity and quality of the love of the residents of Vrindavan, he pleaded, he prayed, the gopis, I want the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis on my head, but they'd be too embarrassed to give the dust of lotus feet, so may I become a blade of grass in Vrindavan, and the gopis can step on me and get the blade as a blade of grass, get the dust of the gopis on my head, my blade of grass head. So he became a blade of grass in Vrindavan. And so Maharaj Parikshit accompanied Vajranab and the queens to find Uddhava, so that Uddhava could speak Srimad Bhagavatam to them. And those of you that may someday or already have visited Vrindavan, one of the things you'll do for sure when you visit Vrindavan is go to Govardhan Hill. Have you been to Vrindavan? Really? You must go someday. And when you go to Vrindavan, you'll surely go to Govardhan Hill. And the guide, whoever's taking you around Govardhan Hill, they'll take you to a place that's called Uddhava Kund. When you're going around Govardhan Hill, it's on the western side towards the top. And there's a kund called Uddhava Kund, and there's a deity of Uddhava, because it's that place where they had a big Sankirtan festival, purposely because they knew that Uddhava would appear to participate with them in the kirtan. So he suddenly appeared out of a grove of bushes and creepers. Finding all of them absorbed in Krishna kirtan, Uddhava offered his respects, embraced Maharaj Parikshit because he knew who Maharaj Parikshit was. This is found in the Padma Purana Bhagavat Mahatmya section. Same narration is found in Skanda Purana. This is what Uddhava said to King Parikshit. O King, you are most fortunate. You are always in exclusive devotion to Krishna. Among all the inhabitants of Dwarka, these queens are without a doubt the most fortunate. Under the influence of Yogamaya, they have forgotten themselves and are suffering from anxiety caused by separation from Krishna. Unless Krishna becomes visible to them, none of them will regain their proper consciousness, but Krishna has wound up his pastimes. That time
has finished, and now we've entered a different age. However, listen, and I will tell you another way. This is from Bhagavad Mahatmya section of Padma Purana. He says, Uddhava says to the queens, Krishna can be visible through the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so he narrates Srimad Bhagavatam, and their pain of separation is mitigated just hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Uddhava. Isn't that nice? So here are some additional occasions when Srimad Bhagavatam is narrated, allowing for the fact that there are different days of Brahma. During different days of Brahma, Krishna appears. And when Krishna appears, the Bhagavatam appears. So there are different versions of the Bhagavatam, slightly variegated, at different times when it's presented. According to Skanda Purana, there are several times. This was one of those times where Lord Krishna speaks Srimad Bhagavatam to Lord Vishnu. Then Lord Vishnu in turn speaks the Bhagavatam to the goddess Lakshmi. And another time, according to Skanda Purana, Lord Narayana speaks to Lord Shiva. And in our own Srimad Bhagavatam, in this particular Yuga cycle, Day of Brahma, this is Lord Narayana imparting the knowledge of the Srimad Bhagavatam into the heart of Brahma. And here's a nice verse. There's several verses that are referenced here. I'm not going to read them. I am. 3.4.13. Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text 13. And then we'll go to the other one. O Uddhava. This is Narayana speaking to Lord Brahma. The lotus millennium. In the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, lotus millennium, what does that mean? It's at Padma Kalpa, lotus millennium. At the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages described as Srimad Bhagavatam. Now this is O Uddhava, this is Canto 3, Chapter 4, this is Maitreya speaking to Uddhava. Maitreya speaking to Uddhava, describing a previous time when Lord Narayan spoke to Brahma. You with me? Good. And in the 12th canto, it was to Lord Brahma that the Supreme Personality of Godhead first revealed the Srimad Bhagavatam in full. At that time, Brahma, frightened by material existence, was sitting on the lotus flower that had grown from the Lord's navel. Now this is what we're used to hearing. And after Brahma heard, whether it's the version from the 3rd canto told by Maitreya to Uddhava, or here, later then Brahma narrates it to Narada Muni. Here's the verse from Canto 2, Chapter 7. O Narada, this science of God, Srimad Bhagavatam, is spoken to me, Brahma to Narada, in summary by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it was spoken as the accumulation of its diverse potencies. Please expand this science yourself. And then what did Narada do? He spoke that knowledge to Vyasadeva. Canto 2, Chapter 9. Narada says, In succession, O king, it's Sutta speaking, Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, what happened. The great sage Narada instructed Srimad Bhagavatam unto the unlimitedly powerful Vyas, that's his father, who meditated in devotional service upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, on the bank of the river Saraswati. So here he is, Vyas, on the bank of the river Saraswati, compiling Srimad Bhagavatam. And after Vyasadeva, of course, there's a different version besides he heard it from Narada, he meditated, according to the instruction of Narada, he meditated in trance. The realization then became Srimad Bhagavatam. Then in turn, Vyas speaks to Shukadeva Goswami. We discussed this. And here's the verse, 1.7.8. There's different times when the Bhagavatam is spoken. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. And very similar, the Sanskrit is different, but similar message, Canto 2. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, I studied this great supplement of Vedic literature named Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal to all the Vedas from my father, Srila Dvaipayana Vyas. And then what did he do? He taught it to Maharaj Parikshit. Very nice painting. Canto 1, Chapter 3. He's teaching Maharaj Parikshit. Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great Emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without taking food or drink. Now, I always had the impression, it's an assumption, that it was near the capital city, but the place where the Bhagavatam was spoken is where we're going. It's near Badrinath. It's between Haridwar and Badrinath. That's where it was spoken, along the bank of the Ganges. Then comes this Brihat Bhagavatamrita description that I mentioned already. Maharaj Parikshit spoke to Uttara, the essence, the synopsis of the Bhagavatam. After Shukadeva Goswami finished narrating, and his mother wanted to hear what he said, because she couldn't understand it. Here's the message from the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Blessed Uttara said, "My dear son, please extract the essence of what Shukadeva has taught you and quickly reveal it to me as if churning the nectar of immortality from the ocean of milk." I think you get the idea. There's lots of times the Bhagavatam has been spoken. Here's Sutta speaking to the sages, Canto 1, Chapter 18. Oh, Sutta Goswami, you are a learned and pure devotee of the Lord because the personality Godhead is your chief object of service. Please, therefore, describe to us the pastimes of the Lord, which are above all material conception, for we are anxious to receive such messages. Sutta speaking. Similarly, 12th canto says the same. Oh, best of the Kurus. Who's that? Maharaj Parikshit. The same Sutta Goswami who is sitting before us. This is Shukadeva speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. Before he's done, he's pointing to Sutta. See that one over there? He's the one that's going to speak it. Sutta Goswami, who is sitting before us, will speak this Bhagavatam to the sages assembled in the great sacrifice at Naimisharanya. This he will do when questioned by the members of the assembly headed by Shonaka. It hasn't happened yet. That one over there, that fellow, Sutta. he's going to speak it again. Here's another version from Skanda Purana where the queens are getting a chance to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to pacify them. So this is this reference that Uddhava Kund, when this on the right side, who's that? Uddhava. Because Uddhava looks so much like Krishna. He doesn't have a peacock feather, but his complexion is just like Krishna. So he spoke, according to Skanda Purana and Padma Purana, he spoke the Bhagavatam to the queens by the side of Govardhan Hill. And this is a reference I received from Madhavananda. Some of you know Madhavananda, Gaur Govinda Maharaj's disciple that lives in Bhubaneswar. And there's this local Bhubaneswar lore that says Lord Shiva spoke the Bhagavatam to both Parvati and Shukadeva Goswami. And if you're from Bhubaneswar, that's the version you're going to hear. And the third canto Bhagavatam, here I'll show you the verse. Lord Sankarshan is speaking to the four Kumaras, Srimad Bhagavatam. As we know, there's different disciplic successions. One of the disciplic successions is the Kumara Sampradaya. So how did the Kumara Sampradaya start? The Brahma Sampradaya is Krishna imparted to Brahma. Here's Lord Sankarshan imparts to the four Kumaras, and it's right in the Bhagavatam. Lord Sankarshan thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumar also, in his turn, when inquired of by Sankyayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he heard it from Sankarshan. Did you notice that in the Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 7? There's a nice painting of Sankyayana hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from the four Kumaras. And then in turn, according to Skanda Purana, Sankyayana Muni taught Srimad Bhagavatam to Parashara Muni and Brihaspati. It's in the Bhagavatam, and it's in Skanda Purana. Disciplic succession. The great sage Sankyayana was the chief among the transcendentalists, and when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam, it so happened that my spiritual master, who's speaking, it's Vyas, his spiritual master Parashara Muni, and Brihaspati both heard him. Well, guess what? According to Skanda Purana, Brihaspati also spoke the Bhagavatam to Uddhava. And Parashara spoke the Bhagavatam to Maitreya, because Maitreya passed it on to Vidura. But how did Maitreya get it? He got it from Parashara Muni, who got it from Sankyayana Muni, etc., etc. Here's the verse in the Bhagavatam. The great sage Parashara, as aforementioned, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke unto me the foremost of the Puranas, Bhagavatam. I shall describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my joyful and faithful follower. And as Parashara taught to Maitreya, Maitreya is now going to teach to Vidura. Disciplic succession. So it's the same Bhagavatam presented in different ways at different times, but so there sometimes, maybe you've run across this, I've run across this. Sometimes our acharyas, when commenting on the Bhagavatam, write And in a different version or different edition, there's this word instead of that word. Because they're different Bhagavatams. Although it's the same Bhagavatam, one word difference here and there. So what happened after Maitreya speaks the Bhagavatam to Vidura? What did Vidura do? Vidura left and went back to Hastinapur and cornered his elder brother Dhritarashtra and scolded him. Enough of this politics and diplomacy. Get out and go to Badrinath, Haridwar, and perform austerities. And that's what he did. All the threads connect if you become a little more familiar with all of these different teachings. So, I think that's all I'm going to do because there's some other topics, but the main idea is the Bhagavatam is not only, it's manifest by Vyas, but it's not creative writing. He's giving his realizations, but it's not creative writing. It's an eternal literature, and he manifests the eternal literature, being empowered to do so because he's Shaktivesh avatar, and present Srimad Bhagavatam that's heard in different times, to different places, from different authorities. What the four Kumaras heard from Lord Sankarshan is not different than what Lord Brahma received from Lord Krishna or Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muyanti At Suraya. And here we are in Naperville with the same Srimad Bhagavatam gifted to us by our founder Acharya. And what did we do? We just said yes. And he did all the work. Of course, we're doing some work by trying to understand it, by hearing seriously and over a period of time, encouraging others to do the same because it's the all-around good for all living entities in the modern times. It's meant specifically for people of this age of Kali to receive the ripened fruit of the Vedic wisdom in one publication. Very special. Very special. So let's see if there's some discussion.
Guru Maharaj, just a clarification. It's been a while I've read third canto. The last one here, Maitreya Muni to, not Maitreya Muni, Parashara Muni to Maitreya. So isn't that when Krishna is leaving this world with Uddhava, the last time he spoke was to Uddhava, and behind Maitreya Rishi is also hearing.
That's correct.
So,
but it's not that Krishna spoke the Bhagavatam to Uddhava at Prabhas.
So the question is, that's what I vaguely remember. Prabhupada, I think in his purpose wrote that he's impersonal before. So now Maitreya Muni heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Parashara Muni. Is it before, after? That means he's a devotee? I mean, is it impersonal at the time, or?
You know what the Bhagavatam says. What you repeated is what Prabhupada writes in his commentary. But he became elevated, so it 2 plus 2 generally equals 4. So if he was at this status originally, and then later he became so qualified to speak to Vidura, then it means it happened after. Now exactly when and how,
Thank you. That's what I want to clarify.
Chronology is the question, so it makes sense after. But I don't know any authoritative scriptural statement that says, after he left, this is where he went, and this is what then he heard from Parashuram, and then he went to Haridwar. Because that's where Maitreya's ashram was. He was one of the Saptarishis. He's in that that area, and that's where Vidura heard from him. Anyone else? Okay. Yes?
Maharaja, I was thinking that how the Bhagavatam sometimes overflows its meaning. In other words,
And it does what?
overflows its meaning. In other words, there's so many, like at a certain point, like 20 years ago when I read Bhagavatam, it was meaningful for me at that stage. And then now when I read, it's again meaningful at a different, when I'm at a different stage of life. So, how it's, just like Arjuna, when he didn't want to fight, Krishna convinced him to fight, and he surrendered. And then later on, when he heard that Krishna left, he was devastated. And the same Bhagavad Gita became his source of consolation, where he decided to leave this world. The same Bhagavad Gita that convinced him to fight, now suddenly he is convincing him to retire. So I was thinking how maybe that's why the non-devotees, can relate to it, because it speaks to you at different levels. And I was wondering, Maharaj, what is it? How does that happen?
Well, two things. First of all, your understanding is not the same as my understanding. What I think I just heard you say, my impression of what I heard you say, was when he remembered the Srimad Bhagavatam the second time, it was the impetus for him to leave the world. My understanding is, as he was narrating to Yudhisthira, this is Bhagavatam, that Krishna has departed. There was suspicion because he was so delayed and so on. When he came before Yudhisthira, he was smashed. He described what happened. But as he was describing what happened, this is my impression is that as he was remembering the mercy and the instructions that Krishna had given to him, he felt solaced. His grief had diminished because appreciating the kindness and nourishment that Krishna had given to him by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, so that he could always remember him. Now, I'll go back and read that section again. As you know, I follow up with stuff. So I'll see where it says what you said. Yes, it is. Chronologically, afterwards, they left. But I don't know if that was the impetus, as remembering Srimad Bhagavatam gave him the impetus to leave. I'd like to read it carefully and see if that's there. You read Bhagavatam carefully. I don't remember reading it like that. Now, the other question, the main question was, is it like that? It's like a Vaidurya stone. At different times, you look at it in this angle, look at it that angle, and you get different realizations according to circumstance and the unlimitedness of the personality of Godhead and the reciprocation with Him. So at different times it means different things even to the same person, but to speak of different persons. That's the metaphor that's used, like the Vaidurya gem. It shows different colors, although it's one color. It shows different colors. You have something.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. My question is similar to Arudha Mataji's question. I was thinking of Maitreya Muni. As we have heard of, he is in the disciplic succession and he has heard Srimad Bhagavatam, but still he was, considered impersonal.
Well, that was at a certain stage, not later.
Yeah, so I was thinking as Mataji is explaining at different stages how a receptivity can actually impact us. And you were also mentioning about we can chant.
Yadashi Shraddha. That same. Siddhi Bhavati Tadrashi. That same message is this afternoon. Were you there for the afternoon class? Oh, you're repeating the afternoon class message.
I was hearing but not completely.
Okay.
I was also thinking in this process of evolving our receptivity for the message, I'm realizing though we have Srila Prabhupada's purports, I think the person Bhagavata, it's coming from hearing from you or other speakers, that realizations is making the message.
It has everything to do with faith. The source isn't different. The faith in the speaker or the topic. Tomorrow, we're going to hear the description from Padma Purana on the punchline is the quality of one's hearing, the intensity of attentiveness of one's hearing is going to determine the outcome of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the Bhagavad Mahatmya section of Padma Purana. It's a whole story of, that's the punchline. You saw the picture several times already. We'll see it again tomorrow. Gokarna is narrating to his brother Dunduli. Dunduli had become a ghost. He liberates him from being a ghost just by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there's a question in the narration. Wait a minute, there are a lot of other people hearing this, and he got liberation, and not everyone got liberation. The Vaikuntha Vimana descended and took him away. He got a body, and the Vimana took him to the spiritual world. So then the question comes, how come same thing didn't happen? The answer is because he was listening very attentively. So they had a second recitation, and everyone achieved perfection. Something to that effect. We'll hear more about it tomorrow. So I'm just amplifying from the Padma Purana the same thing that you're saying. It's going to strike different people in different ways. That's one. And the attentiveness, just like the attentiveness in chanting, the attentiveness in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam makes all the difference in how it's going to impact. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.